Hi YouTube, Darth here. This is Over Your Shoulder, where I spectate unsuspecting players and give what is usually unsolicited advice. Today's victim is Binary Scythe, a level 140 with some good stats and a definite preference for the engineer class. Today's map is Caspian Border. It seems like I managed to get put on this map more than the average person, but as I follow over Binary Scythe's shoulder today, I'll call out all the good things, bad things, and the things I might do differently. So let's look over Binary Scythe's shoulder. Alright, looks like we're in a tank on Caspian Border. AP shell, canister shell, reactive armor. I'd probably go with the autoloader if you're going to use the canister shell. Otherwise, don't miss. Active protection and thermal optics. This is a pretty typical tank setup. I mean, there's really not a lot of wiggle room anymore in Battlefield 4. You see people run reactive armor, active protection, or you see them run autoloader, APS usually. APS is pretty much a default choice for that. Smoke, probably wouldn't use it on this particular map. Looks like somebody got there in the tank. It's important whenever you take a point to make sure at least somebody gets in that armored vehicle that spawns at the point. Otherwise, you're going to end up with an enemy in it, and you don't want enemies up your butt in this map. Let's see, taking a look at what we got here going on. Charlie, looks like the American team has managed to take that point. That's pretty typical. Like I said, don't miss with the canister, otherwise you're going to be waiting on the reload for a little while. See one here in the rocks, maybe playing a little too close to that. You also have a tank over here. If that's a C4 guy, you could be in trouble. Takes a shot at that. It doesn't want to get taken out by the Jeep with nobody in it. Doing a bit of a flank action here. Gunner's giving him away a bit, manages to get that canister off. See, there's at least one bit of armor there on the road. Don't know if I would have turned my backside towards that main road because you do typically have a lot of tanks coming along. We see at least one tank here. We're charging back to try and hold this point. Russians have to hold on to Echo at this point, otherwise they're going to be in trouble. Usually this is the point that gets the Russian team in trouble on this map, and I don't usually see the Russian team win this map all that often, despite the fact that they have that wall to sort of protect their holdings, because the Americans grab hold of Echo, and it's generally pretty hard to just keep them out of here unless you have somebody babysitting. You see the American AA is pushing up pretty hard, not something you typically see out of an AA driver, particularly here because there's a lot of company you usually have coming from the Russian side of the map, specifically the spawn. Looks like we have a couple of tanks up here. Probably plays a little bit closer to cover. Looks like that tank's not paying much attention though. That tank needs to back off or it's going to be in trouble. There we go. Taking a look at the tabletop, we got map mostly in the hands of the Americans, not a surprise on Caspian. Not much going on there to the left side. We do have Charlie though, so maybe don't have to worry about reinforcements coming from the forest. Looks like that enemy finally got taken down by some squad mates. Be wondering where that piece of armor went, and it looks like it's over there. You usually feel a lot safer when that door is closed. You do not have armor to come from Alpha. See that we have that AA gun has gone down south again. Oh, I really wouldn't try to push on that AA gun too much, having held that tank exactly where you are. I think one of the things that Battlefield players get a little bit off on is they'll typically start attacking one thing, not kill it, back off, and then go attack something else and assume that that thing they first started attacking isn't going to pay supreme attention to it. The rule I found in Battlefield is generally if you show players a target, they will chase it to the end of time. And we are running straight in here on this point. No infantry to back us up, so this is probably going to be bad news if a bunch of engineers spawn here. He does have a gunner with the incendiary grenade, so that's going to help out a little bit. Taking too many hits here. One more hit and this is game over. There it is. Binary Scythe back on the ground. Looks like an L86 A2. Suppressor angled grip. I'd have to take a look at the stats on the L86, but I don't think that that angled grip is the right choice, especially not there. And now we are pulling in a Jeep from the base. Don't know where we're going to take this. I suspect to, what is that point? Bravo? Possibly. Looks like the Americans are still in charge of this map. 100 ticket difference. This is going to be a little bit longer of a game, it looks like, since we started at 1,200 tickets instead of 800. I'm increasingly less of a fan of high ticket games. I think that's actually a big difference we're going to see in Battlefield 1 is the way that Conquest games are set up. It doesn't really allow for high ticket games, or at least that's the appearance that I got. Oh, this is going to be fun. Mines. as I was saying, Battlefield 1 looks like Conquest has changed a little bit there. And Binary Scythe, you can't say that he didn't see the mines, because I'm pretty sure I saw them on my HUD in first-person mode. It's also possible that it's bugged, but I think you might have seen them. That tank is going to prove to be a little bit helpful here. If I were Binary Scythe, I'd probably try to climb to the top of this, see what's at Bravo right now, and then make my jump down to try and help that tank. That tank is not going to be in good shape here in a second. At least 2 engineers. Takes 1 out there, but it looks like he had help from his friend. Deja vu. Let's see if we'd go for Bravo again. Probably going to. Like I said, Battlefield leaders get a hold of an idea and continue to do that until it has exhausted itself. Spinning out a bit. Let's get a look at the tabletop. Pretty much the same situation. Americans are in charge of the forest at Charlie. And I don't think we're going to have much help here for our tank buddy. If you're trying to help out your tank, you might spawn an engineer. I'm not sure what good a support is going to do other than suppressing enemies, apparently. Slow peak is not my favorite peak anymore. There was a video I watched recently by Marvel Duck that opened my eyes to the jumping fast peak, which seems a little bit overpowered, to be honest with you. And that is a rocket to the face. Anyway, fast peak, jumping around corner, generally pretty good if you have an idea where your enemies are going to be at. If you have no idea where they're at, you might be exposing yourself to a lot of poor decisions. If I remember, I'll link that in the description below. But my memory's pretty spotty lately, so we'll see. Taking a look there, we see that we have at least 1 up there. Not quite exposing yourself to fire. Now you are well within the view of the enemy. I think I'd worry about the guy that was here on the river that we saw a second ago. Looks like he jumped down and went a little bit further along. Probably turn off that laser. You're really just giving yourself away at this point. I don't understand the laser and silencer combination on this map in particular. You'd probably be better served by something that has a little bit more mid-range and long-range power. Kind of crimping the style of this weapon by making it have a terrible velocity. Managed just to come up with 1 there. Pushing the point now. There's at least 1 armored vehicle that can make our day sad, and it looks like it's making its way over here. I pay really close attention to that post. It's probably going to be looking your way. Ooh, not quite. We have C4, so we could deal with it in that way. Could try playing the hero. I would be very surprised if that tank doesn't find him. It's pointed in his general direction. Looks like the server's having issues right now. Runs by an enemy. He's going for it. I don't think he's going to get it because he's going to be on that mini-map, and he gets taken out. Jeep Deja Vu. I wonder where we're going. I bet it's the same place. Now down by 240 tickets. The Russian team is behaving like most Russian teams do on this map, getting stuck at Delta and Echo, unable to push into Charlie. And for the most part, Alpha remains safe most of the matches I see, simply because I feel like that wall protects it a little bit, but not a lot of Russians push past Charlie in the first place. There's really not a lot of cover between Charlie and Alpha that will help you get there without running into sniper nests and almost certain armor respawns. But could we actually be going that way? Let's see. Looks like we have a fair number of friendlies pushing that way right now. If you have a determined squad of Russians on top of Alpha, it's kind of hard to eject them. Even with a little bit of help, you can get up in those rocks behind it, throw down a spawn beacon, and make life hell for everybody. So Russians are actually managing to take Alpha. Let's see if there's any resistance here to speak of. It looks like we had some. Currently pushing the point and getting the capture in. Now, here's the other problem that happens once you take Alpha. Unless the tank is there, you're not going much places. Because this is a long run anywhere else. One of these days I should probably take a look at what the distances are between these points on average. I suspect they're kind of on the high side for Battlefield. We see one here on the mini-map. Looks like he's inside there. Correctly hip fires as opposed to aiming down sights. So good use of the laser in that case, but most of your engagements are not going to be that close on this map. Looks like we see one guy there. We're going to try and run him down, and we get the roadkill. Clean that one out of the grill a little bit later. See another one here. We're going to go for this. Not going to quite get it. A little bit of hip-fire action, not good enough. And that's one of the things I don't like about Charlie, the Charlie point in general on this map, is it's real hard to take it. As I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by a respawn, the Charlie point is difficult to take because you have that 270 degrees where you are not safe at all, pretty much anywhere you hide on that point. And I would totally turn off that laser if you're trying to hide from that tank, because he can definitely see that. One of the poor features about the laser is it will go through rocks, trees, pretty much anything. And if you... it will appear on the wall on the opposite side. Now you have two armored vehicles going up here, and you should probably be considering switching to an engineer after this life, because support is just not going to be able to cut it. And they obviously know where your teammate is, and you're kind of pressed in here a little bit. So there's not much you're going to be able to do unless the armored vehicle suddenly decide to get bored and walk away. This is one of the reasons why I tend to prefer playing an engineer, is because I always have all of my options on the table. I don't feel like I have to say, welp, guess I have to sit on this rock for about 5 minutes because I can't do anything. I mean, if you had a smoke grenade, you might be able to help out some. It's clear he can't control his recoil very well, particularly not at that range, and it's not doing himself any favors by having that silencer on there. Good job of him playing playing a little bit of team support there and throwing down ammo. Double ammo. And if you think double ammo has no purpose, you might be surprised to learn that C4 will recharge a little bit faster if you have two of them out. Looks like we had one guy back here. Still see him. God, I would turn off that laser sight. You're not doing yourself any favor. You're just turning yourself into a human torch for everybody. That's the thing about the laser. It's a good tool if you know how to turn it on and off, and when it's appropriate to use it and when it's not. If you can't get those rules down, I really would not use this thing. Binary Scythe not really having a good game so far. I think part of his problem, in addition to keeping the laser on at all times, is his willingness to run out into the open and sort of set himself up for easy picks by the enemy team. Russians have managed to stall the Americans out a little bit. Looks like the Americans have taken back Alpha, and the Russians have managed to take the rest of the team. The Americans are doing a typical press at Echo. If the Russians can hold on to Echo, this may turn around in their favor, but so far it seems like we're going to have U.S. victory. Almost ran past that one. Picked up a couple of free points. Interesting team swap by the radio beacon in the woods. Wonder about that one. Guesses that there might be a guy around that corner. That's one where you could probably jump peek it. Almost gets that guy. And finally comes up with him in the last bullet. Comeback bonus of 40, so we've been having kind of a rough match. So, got a lot of support here now. You can see that the U.S. team has an MAV circling around, so we know that there's probably somebody over here giving it a little bit of advice. And again, Binary Scythe sort of put himself out in the open unnecessarily. Again, here we are in the open, not quite seeing that guy. Almost missed him. Comes up with a payback. We heard at least a single shot ring out from over here, so we know there's at least one recon. Unfortunately, we didn't get a glimpse of him where he's on the minimap. I think I heard a spawn there, and we did indeed. Probably going to be eating this one. Silencer does you no good if you are spotted by the enemy. I think if you were feeling frisky in that particular situation, you might have thrown some C4 at the building, tried to blow him up behind the wall. You probably would have taken yourself out at the same time, though, given the low health. Now we're heading back to Echo, get a little bit of that sweet, sweet vengeance. Looks like the American team's all over it. Maybe a single infantry in support. Gonna try and clear this out first by the looks of things. Not a bad idea. Clear out any beacons that might be back here. Try and rally a little bit more support on the point before you go and push in. Might worry about having had exposed myself by putting that Jeep on the map. Whenever a Jeep appears out of nowhere on the map, and it isn't in the normal spawn point for a Jeep, you can pretty much assume that an enemy just spawned there. And it looks like he has a little bit of helicopter support that may or may not linger around here, but we got a little bit of assistance there. We saw where that rocket came from, not paying attention to where the rocket came from. You knew that there was infantry over there. Apparently really convinced that they are still hanging out over here. make it over this, and we are going into nowhere land. This is not helpful for your team at all. Looks like the Russians have actually managed to turn it around on this map, so clearly somebody's having some fortune on this map. I'm going to take a quick peek over there. He's really convinced that there's something over here, but there is not. Yeah, it looks like the Russians have managed to push a couple of points there. It looks like they got pushed off now. It's going to be a reversal again. Getting sniped at. Probably sounded like it was coming from behind. Got a squad spawn now. Maybe a little bit of luck. In a pretty typical spot. Usually people come look here. Not my favorite hiding spot in this map. You got to be careful what you crouch next to in this game too, because your ass might stick out the back. Apparently convinced that that rebel is a human. You can see that there's somebody over there in the tow launcher. Please turn off the laser. Please turn it off. Please turn off the laser. Nope. Yep. Not hitting that. You know, here's the other disadvantage of his gun setup right now. That Cobra is doing him no favors, as most of his engagements have been at 40 meters, and there we die out in the open again. So it looks like we have a couple of reinforcements here. I really would find some cover right now. Manages to come up with one finally. Catches the second one. Now we're on a little bit of a tear. A little bit of bloody vengeance. Taking some damage? No, apparently not. Taking some healing damage. Looks like the Americans have pretty well pushed back on this map. This might be a close one in the end. We'll see. I mean, if they can keep it. If they can keep it, roughly this situation, the American team's going to take off pretty quick here. The only transport's running away from here. I'll be making my way. So I'm making my way to the Jeep and probably over to Charlie from here. Takes a hit from, don't know the source, might have been a chopper. 40, was that 32 damage? 32 damage? Could have been a shot from 7.62, but probably not at that range. I love the, looks like I'm taking damage, but I'm actually healing bug in spectator mode. Crossing this river. You can see a bunch up top of Delta. I don't think your best bet's going to be to cross the road right now, because we saw a bunch of people looking down at this tank earlier. You're probably spotted now, would be my thinking. Looks like he's taking a long way to Bravo. I mean, you could circle back. You could do any number of things here. Circling back towards Delta might be an option. Bravo usually doesn't stay in the hands of the Russians very long, particularly because it's so close to the American spawn. It's easy for them to take back. And you almost always have two tanks over here. And again, this is one of those situations where I'm like, I'm support. What am I supposed to do? He pulls that out at the exact wrong time. Thankfully, that guy was really not paying attention. Otherwise, he should have been stuffed there in record time. Looks like these tanks. This guy is so lucky right now. Those tanks should have had him. That guy should have had him. There's probably going to be infantry that spawns here. I would totally take that tank right now if I could. Oh, please get in that tank. Don't throw C4 on it. Yes, yes. Good. See, that's what you do. Enemy gives you a tank, you take it from them. Now you got to worry about the C4 that's on the side of this thing. All right, let's see what we're rocking here. We got the same setup we had before. No changes there. So one way to get that explosive device off the side of here, since we're in friendly fire, you can wait till somebody gets in, and then grenade chuck or rocket the side to blow that off, just so you don't have to worry about it. Right now, what is probably going to happen is the first moment he gets in a tank fight or somebody shoots a rocket at him, he's going to take an extra 50 damage from that C4. I assume that's C4 on the side. Can't really see from here. It looks like a sandwich. Could be M2, but I think it's the sandwich. Catching a couple of snipers up here. I don't know what people think they're doing up here. They must have the most fabulous time ever. Booking our way over to Alpha. The capture point for Alpha is actually pretty large. You can capture it from down here below. There's no need to get that close to this guy. Probably took a rocket they maybe didn't have to. Like I said, this is probably my favorite spot to try and take this point from if I'm armored, because it gives me a little bit longer lines of sight. Coming up in here makes it a little bit easier for people to get C4 on top of me. Took a rocket from, looks like the 9 o'clock. Plenty of infantry around. This is sort of the problem at this point for armor in general, especially Russian armor, because you have all this reinforcements coming from the American base, and then you have the stuff in the hills. So back in the base again, and back in the Jeep. Looks like the American team has managed to turn this back to the usual way this game goes on Caspian. About 150 ticket difference right now. Another kamikaze jeep coming in. No need to intercept. That AA gun can get punished. Heading back to Bravo. Some decent instincts with trying to back cap the points that might get you the win on this map as the Russians, but at the same time, it really hasn't worked out, especially when he's lone wolfing like this. It's really difficult to cap Bravo and Alpha on this map as a lone wolf. You're going to have to deal with armor respawns, you're going to have to deal with respawning defenders. Bringing this down for the tank, good move there, so you at least have a little bit of armor support. Looks like the tank made his own hole. Good amount of support here. This will probably end up capturing the flag. I believe the spawn points for this are in the south and the east, so I'd probably keep my eyes over here to the east, since you have teammates that are sort of watching that southern point, or the southern part of the point. There comes in a jet. Not going to do too much damage there. Nowhere to go really, but Delta would probably be my next point to choose. Still down by a couple of points and manages to miss this guy. Oop, do a little bit of spawn back action, payback time. Spawned on a squad mate that happened to be nearby. Usually I don't like to stay in the same area if I have killed somebody there already, because what happens is when that person you killed spawned, the first thing they're going to do is come looking for you. Like I said, people like to attach to that single target mentality. And one there to the left almost missed him. Maybe a little bit too trusting of teammates there. Getting a little bit of stutter right now from the server. It looks like we can't play this game at 40 tick rate. Why are we in the fire? No, apparently not taking damage from it though. Interestingly enough. See one up here. And he's taking him out. Good eye. See a couple more on the minimap. Might want to be careful of respawns here. Having to reload this thing a little bit frequently. Strangely enough, not taking damage down here. I wish I knew his secret. A bit of terrain bug there. One jumping down, you can assume that there are going to be more. Got a res. Back up and back down. Nope. Staying up. Time to hide. A little bit of a shuffle down here. I'm not taking any damage. Very interesting. Doing a good job of watching the minimap, it looks like. Keeping an eye on points where enemies might be coming down. Gets a little bit of incidental damage there from the sandwiches. It's blown sky high. 240 ticket difference now. American team closing in on Charlie gets spawn rocked. Back to the Jeep. Tried and true. At least you'll have a moment to establish yourself. And it looks like somebody's tired of having the AA camp. Not that the American air has been very punishing this round, but apparently they're tired of his shenanigans anyways. Driving off into the wilderness. The American team has 4 captures to the Russian team's 1. It does not look good for the Russian team at this point. We are taking in the scenery. So taking a look at the tabletop. American team pretty much piled up on Delta. We are headed towards Bravo again. Probably going to manage to capture it. Get a little bit of support from this tank. Echo's being threatened on all sides by the giant swath of Americans. Tried to push Alpha, only lone member out there. Again, this is one of those maps where being the lone wolf at Alpha and Bravo for the Russian team just really doesn't work out ever. There's so many spawns around it and coming into it that it's really difficult to hold it by yourself. Echo is a bit easier because there are so many buildings around it where you can just hide in, plant a spawn beacon, and just keep on returning. And I think it's fairly accessible to the rest of the map by comparison to these 2 points, which are sort of guarded by that wall. I don't know why they put that wall, and I still don't. I think it was a terrible decision, DICE. And managing to capture this flag with a couple of help from... looks like, yep, squad mate there. Could be in communication with them. We don't know. Taking a look around at the tabletop. Probably would make my way to Delta at this point. About the best you can do. Binary has been doing a good job of capturing the points so far. Maybe a little bit too happy on the trigger. Don't need to do the left-right strafe if you're not being shot. Now you are. You weren't being shot at earlier. Maybe got a good grenade on there. Almost. Not quite. And catches one in the butt. Got Bravo being pushed. Your best guess is going to be that they're probably around this building. This is everybody's favorite hiding spot when they're taking the point. I tend to prefer the more southerly garbage dumpster. You can usually capture the point from back there and have a little bit of heads up on what's on the point. Looks like enemy team, or excuse me, yeah, the enemy team got taken out here. Taking a look at that mini-map, not seeing anything. We still see that there's one up there, and again, we're fixated on that guy, even though he's not doing much other than acting as a spawn point for his team. Way too many Russians at this point, and it's not going to matter. Finally gets taken out. Looks like he probably got taken out from the guys up on top of the rampart there. Yep, out in the open again. Probably would stick a little bit closer to the rocks. There we go. Not seeing anything on the map here but a couple of dead bodies. I don't think I would be really keen to go right where that dead body was for that exact reason. Alright, finally back in the tank, and it's not going to matter because I think even if we 5-capped him here, there would be no way to come back on this map. Just no way. Like, the other team would have to stop playing. So at this point we're just out for blood. And it looks like we might find some at Echo if we're willing to go over there. Still rocking that canister shell. I think the canister is far more effective with the autoloader. Looks like we have mines, but not directly in front of us. We can see a couple of enemies around here. Missed the shot. Now he has to deal with the reprisals from 1, 2, 3, 4 infantry around here. This is going to be problematic. But thankfully the game's over now, so getting that bloody vengeance like I was saying. A not so surprising ending to this map, as the Americans tend to win Caspian about 60% of the time. Binary Scythe could have improved those odds a little bit by trying to focus more on Charlie, Delta, and Echo. However, some things he could also stand to work on are controlling when his laser is on, recoil control at long range, and finding better cover when engaging enemies. There were a number of times when all these things, or a combination of these things, were the end of his soldier's life. That's it for this episode of Over Your Shoulder. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.